great evening to everyone. How you doing on this amazing Wednesday evening? I have to turn this volume down. I want to thank you for coming on and joining us either live on the replay to get to know Bob, this amazing opportunity and platform for us to speak with some phenomenal Bobs throughout our community, from business owners to nonprofit founders. We have independent musicians and authors, just everybody doing amazing things for our community, getting them here to give them an opportunity to share who they are, what they do, and most importantly, why they do what they do. And then, of course, like tonight's show, bring some awareness from the experts in that field. So we are excited about tonight's conversation as we are finishing out the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. I am your host, Sonia M. Weaver, and I just love having the opportunity to sit in this chair and have these phenomenal conversations. But I'm also excited about what's to come when we had our first completely pre-recorded show. So we're going to be, hopefully during the summer, doing some more off-the-site interviews and being engaged at live events and bringing them back to you guys for broadcast. So get excited because I am. So, not to further ado for tonight's conversation, I want to actually share something with you that I did this weekend. It was Memorial Day weekend. Happy Memorial Day. I had a great weekend. It was busy, hence I'm a little bit tired tonight. Enjoyed Friday night with a group of women where we were honoring loved ones in honor of Memorial Day. So it was a different take on loss, but it was where you can really reminisce in a positive way and an encouraging way. So, a lot of triggers can come from loss, including what could fall under the umbrella of mental health. You can get into severe depression, etc. We might touch upon that a little bit later in today's show. Who knows? But it was great for Friday. Then on Saturday, I had the phenomenal opportunity. Let's take a little quick see of what I am referring to.
Hey, what's going on, people? Hey, get ready for our in-person Detroit. We do it right. Guess what? Detroit will be in the house in October.
You're around the next is next in Detroit. Come out and see us and showcase your talent. See you soon.
Well, I'm going to do an apology because I didn't know the technical difficulties of the recording came through so choppy because it didn't show on the previous recording before it got loaded to the deck. But yes, I had the opportunity to be a part of an audition for the Leadership Experience Tour, which gives you an opportunity to be on a platform as a speaker and hone your skills and your gifts and talents in that area and really share with people to be inspiring. So, as a coach, it's just an additional layer to the services that I offer. So, more to come. And I was pretty honored and excited to be part of an amazing group of people at this event. And then, of course, Memorial Day weekend, Memorial Day itself was an opportunity to spend time with family. I hope you enjoyed your Memorial Day and remembered those who also serve for us so that we can have the afforded freedoms within our country and remembering those that you know personally that are no longer here. Now, last week's conversation, OMG, it was amazing. If you missed last week's conversation, we talked with moms. The topic was Brave Moms, Bright Futures, real talk about mental health. And we did share just that. We had like close to 100 people just within a couple of days viewing that episode. If you didn't get an opportunity to view it for yourself, make sure you take the time to do so. It will be worth your time. On tonight's show, we're getting excited. We're going to have the topic for Mind Matters, candid conversations on mental health. And of course, we're going to have Mind Matters expert, Dr. Michelle Leno. Well, hello. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. And I have to say, I love your intro. I love all the technical stuff that you're doing with the show. And you said it was choppy, but it was, that what you just showed, that preview. And I thought it was pretty good. I know what you mean, but it was still good. So no worries. You don't have to apologize.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Because I am my worst critic. I am learning. And that's part of probably mental health.
Mhm.
But I am learning that excellence and perfection are two different things. So I'm going to make sure everything I do is with excellence. But I'm human, technology fails, so I cannot control perfection.
That is right. That is right. And we tend to be hard on ourselves. We are our own worst
Yeah,
critics.
I know.
You know,
I
it
said
is.
that falls under some type of
Perfectionism is
mental because it creates mental anxiety.
as if we need to create any more of that.
Exactly.
The way I was
Exactly.
doing when I was trying to get everything to work, because as I wanted to be here for you
I
and your
appreciate
audience.
it. I
So I
appreciate
had
it.
my own share of anxiety.
So, for those of you watching, Dr. Michelle is not on screen because of some technical difficulties. So, there are times in which our devices will let us down and it will create some type of anxiety within us because, it's not functioning properly. But really, after you've done all you can do, you have to just take some deep breathing and recognize, hey, today it is what it is.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm learning. I'm still learning to do that. I'm still learning to not, even as a psychologist, I'm learning not to take things to bed with me. But I'm a work in progress.
Well, before we go any further into our conversation, allow for those who might not know you or be viewing for the first time, share who you are, what you do, and then why you do what you do.
So I am Dr. Michelle Leno. I'm going by Dr. Michelle. My show is Mind Matters with Dr. Michelle. It's a TV show that we talk all things mental health and health in general, actually. It airs every Saturday, 11:30 a.m. on Detroit 50, which was CW 50. And I started out doing a lot of therapy because I'm so busy now. I'm doing more consulting, interviews, things like this. And but yeah, all things mental health. If you have any mental health questions, I'm usually here to answer it because I love talking about it. I love that we are talking about it more. So I do a variety of things in the business. It's just like it's so hard to pinpoint one thing because I no longer do one thing anymore, which is probably why I'm dealing with some technical difficulties because I'm all over the place. As I was explaining to Sonia earlier, I supervise students that are getting into the program. I supervise master's level and doctoral students that are currently interns. So I love helping people because I want people to feel inspired and know that there's so much to this field. And so if I can encourage in any way, that's what I'm here to do.
I love it. I love it. So because you mentioned your show, I do know that one of the clips that we do have coming up is just a segment of showing your most recent. But before we do that, in case anybody wants to see previous episodes, we had our initial conversation with Dr. Michelle in December of 2021. So you can go to our YouTube archives and you can watch that episode. Then the following year in November of 2022, we had another conversation. Now, normally we do converse towards the end of the year because we know when people enter into the holidays, that can also lead to feelings of anxiety, depression, etc. But this was also a good time for you to come on also as we just finished with Mother's Day. We just did Memorial Day and May being Mental Health Awareness Month. So share just a little bit about how external factors such as holidays, such as calendar events can actually trigger where we have things like depression or anxiety, etc.
Yeah, so there are people, and actually, I mean, I didn't realize this until I got into the field. There was a time when I probably wouldn't have been able to relate to this, but now I totally get it. There are people who actually they dread holidays, right? So if you're that person who loves to get together with friends and family, or you just love a day off to, any reason to, take time away from work and just for you, you may not realize that there are people, the holidays will bring on a lot of, as Sonia mentioned, depression and anxiety for them, even leading up to the holidays. And sometimes it's because maybe loss of a loved one. Sometimes there is family conflict, drama that's unresolved, and they don't know how they're going to approach the situation if they're invited. And then there's also social anxiety that gets downplayed and underestimated a lot. But being invited to things and not knowing, like kind of wanting to go, but then there's all this like trepidation around going. And so, as we know, holidays, I mean, that's the time where if you're going to be invited somewhere, it's going to be during a holiday. And so there's a lot of, no matter what holiday it is, it tends to happen more during our bigger holidays, like the Christmas and Thanksgiving, but even the smaller holidays that just bring about gatherings cause a lot of stress for people. And again, you may not relate to it if this is something that you absolutely love, but there are people that, hey, if they could do away with all holidays,
Yeah,
then they would.
they would, and
Yeah.
that's true. Where I know, when you mentioned that social piece, that was huge because a lot of people don't even think about it. And a lot of triggers can just be where you normally don't get triggered. But if you're having, let's say, a bad financial year or something, and you might feel like you want to go, but then you feel this added pressure, like have gifts or to bring a dish or whatever the case may be. And then so there's some additional issues that can fall upon you where you're feeling even more stress and anxiety. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just really wanted to my desire was to have these conversations all month long with experts in the field. And even last week we had moms, because I want to make sure we begin to break the stigma. The stigma must be broken because anyone at any point in time could very well utilize your services or the services of the people I had on, counseling, group sessions, whatever it might be. But don't allow what you think a stigma is to keep you from being mentally well and getting the help you so desperately may need.
Yes, and stigma, I'm so glad you mentioned stigma, because stigma is the reason why we haven't talked about mental health, mental illness for so long, because people don't want to be viewed as crazy. And I always say we're all dealing with something,
Yes.
and it has nothing to do with being crazy. If you even think you need help, you're not crazy. You know, crazy doesn't think they need help. You know what I mean? That's just not how
That's
it
right.
works. So if you even are thinking, maybe I need to talk to somebody, or maybe I need to take a day off, or maybe I just need time for me, or maybe I need to go out and go shopping to feel better, that's insight. That's not crazy at all. And it's okay, because you'd be surprised that if you start bringing up things, other people will say, wow, I go through that too. That's, I'm having a hard time, just getting motivated to get myself going. And you'd be surprised at how many people will just appreciate that conversation. Even if they don't tell you at the time, you have helped them. A lot of times when you just bring it up, because we've gotten away from making ourselves relatable, right? We see social media, everybody is perfect and living a perfect life and looking perfect, that we tend to think, well, they don't understand, they don't have any
Right.
problems. But trust me, the person who looks the most perfect might have the most problems. It's
The
called,
most broken.
overcompensation.
Yes, because I'm telling you, it can be from moment to moment, people, like literally from moment to moment. I have at 4 o'clock in the morning been like, woe is me, crying, and then when the afternoon come, I'm like, okay, I got this together. But
Mm-hmm.
that's how our emotions are, because life is not the easiest go, and sometimes you need extra support. So give yourself grace. I think we were saying before the show that perfection is something that's not attainable. So when you
You'll
say
never reach it.
right, so don't compare yourself to what you think is perfect, because nothing is perfect. Now,
I want to say I listened to Esther Hicks, because I'm really big on the law of attraction. I think we've talked about this before, Sonia. I'm really big on law of attraction. And she talked about something one day, and I just had to laugh, because she said how in a conversation, whether it's with a friend, a family member, or a spouse, we talk about like wanting to get it, just get to the bottom of it. And she's like, when will you learn there is no bottom? You'll be talking forever. There is no bottom.
there's no bottom. I love
Like
it.
you're never
I love
going
it.
to get to the bottom of it. So just stop it. So there is no perfection. There is no bottom.
Yes, that's an illusion. An illusion. I just want to take a moment right now. We're going to take time to recognize our businesses and who have events coming up or the work that they're doing. But I also need to acknowledge and say hello to Tien, who's joined the live conversation. His comment, he said, much respect to Deals with Bob, hosted by Sonia Weaver. I thank you for that. And great guest in Dr. Michelle. Thank you, Tim, for
Oh,
joining.
thank
I
you.
appreciate your support. So, Dr. Michelle, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want you to just share with people regarding your show, since you mentioned it. I want you to think about, why did you start it and what motivated you to start Mind Matters with Dr. Michelle. We'll be right back.
With Crystal L. Gunn, financial strategist. Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Your daily dose of financial empowerment. A journey towards financial wisdom and small business mastery.
Get your family together for financial night or grab your tribe and get flawless with financial strategist Crystal L. Gunn. Schedule your night today.
Friday night decompression session hosted by Sonia M. Weaver and Jason Integrity. Celebrate the wins, let go of the stress, vent, share, and encourage. Register today on Facebook or Alignable by searching for the BE Black Entrepreneurs Group.
A night of music, food, and fun.
For Mellow Fridays, being entertained by award-winning King Mellow Man. Every Friday at Shields Restaurant, Bar and Pizzeria. Located at 25101 Telegraph Road, Southfield, Michigan. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to YouTube, search for Deals with Bob, and click the subscribe button.
And we're back. So, I have this image here of one of your recent conversations. And again, for those who missed maybe when Dr. Michelle stated, yes, she has a show, comes on once a week on Detroit 50, WKBD TV. And it is, is it Mind Matters, or is it Dr. Michelle Show Mind Matters? I see it's kind of a little bit different. I didn't never pay attention to that.
Well, yeah, you know what? You are absolutely right. It's not you, it's us. So we were playing around with changing the name because one of my execs, one of my and co-creator was like, well, we need to just change, the name needs to eventually change to the Dr. Michelle Show. But so many people have gotten into calling it Mind Matters with Dr. Michelle that we haven't officially changed anything. So we started playing around with Dr. Michelle Mind Matters. So right now it's either one, but it's still Mind Matters with Dr. Michelle.
Okay. And it's funny,
you know how you're playing around with things and
never noticed until like right this moment. I'm like, oh wait.
Yeah, that's just what that is. No, it's not you at all.
Okay. Well, why I had this piece up here is just to show people how engaging it is. Your set is so relaxing. It allows for people to be transparent and authentic with their story. So if you have not watched this show, let us know again, Dr. Michelle, when it can be watched.
Yes, and hopefully you start watching ASAP if you're not already watching, but it airs every Saturday, 11:30 a.m. That's in the morning on Detroit 50. So if you're looking for it in your TV, it used to be CW 50, so it's now Detroit 50. So you still just go to that same network. Nothing else has changed. It's just a new name, Detroit 50.
Gotcha. So from our question before we came into this segment, what motivated you to start a show, and what was your mission or your goals for doing so?
So I didn't initially have motivation to start a show. As you know, I was going on doing interviews with different people on other shows. And then I also, a good friend who's passed away, Cliff Woodards, I started co-hosting with him on his show, Your Turn with Cliff Woodards. And I became a regular co-host there. And then it was just like different people, including you, Sonia, were like, yeah, you need to be on TV. You need to be on TV, take this show on the road. And then I met my co-creator, who was Robert Moore, who was already in the business. He had been in marketing, TV, radio, and he had been in for like 30 years or so. And when I met him, he was like, hey, I'm really into mental health. I've, seen you in action. And I want to do a show with you because I really think you're the one to do it. And that just kind of motivated me. I'll tell you, I didn't realize it was so much work preparing for a show. and just, the clothing changes, the getting ready for the camera, getting ready to talk to different people, even just remembering names, all those things you take for granted. It has nothing to do with how smart you are, or it's just a lot goes into it, thinking about what to talk about. But I always knew that I wanted to eliminate stigma around mental illness, because it gets really frustrating that people will stereotype people and that people are afraid to talk about what they're going through because we just don't understand it. And so I really there are other healthcare professionals, believe it or not, who really don't get it either. So you may be in the hospital for something and they may not truly understand it. And it's not because they are not trying. It's just that a lot of people really don't get it. And I realized there was a need to just have the conversation, not once or twice, not during, some big campaign, but to have it all the time, to keep the conversations going. And that's really what motivates me. And that's what motivated me to do the show. And now that I'm doing it, I absolutely love it because I love to hear people's stories. I love to hear like what, how they're going through something and overcoming it, or better yet, still in it and learning to cope with it. I mean, that is the real story because that's mostly what happens. I always tell my one producer, not everything's gonna end. If you ever watch Hallmark Channel,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
like this happy ending all the time, like they
Yeah.
wrap it up in 2 hours, right? But real life doesn't wrap up like that in 2 hours. And so I didn't want to have this show where we're only talking about, okay, yeah, now I'm, within 30 minutes, it's a 30-minute show, and now everything's fixed. People talk about how they're still going through it because I think it's more powerful to
Yeah.
learn how to cope than to, of course, it's nice to get through things and have it be done. But when you have a coping mechanism and you know what to do if this happens again, I mean, I'm telling you, that is more powerful than just getting through all of it, because
Yeah.
it makes things less frightening. It's not like the monster under the bed, like what I'm going to do if this happens again. It's like, well, now I know what I'm going to do if this happens again. And that's really the message that I like to get out to people on the show. Like, even if something happens, yes, things happen, we get through them. Things happen, we get through them. And,
Right.
just like all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's one thing where we don't give enough credit to is that even if you wake up and you feel you're dealing with the same situation, you got through that previous day. And it's not as much focus given to, but you got through yesterday. And that's powerful in and of
Yeah,
itself. So I even have to be like, you focus on, day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute. And sometimes you have to do that just to give yourself the opportunity to get through 24 hours.
right. Yeah, because sometimes if you don't do that, then you think, I'm not going to make it through this day, right? You get up.
Right.
Because I mean, hey, if you haven't had that time where you woke up at 4 o'clock thinking you forgot to do something, or just not even knowing why you're up, overthinking something, like you're
Mhm.
like those times where you overthink and you're like, what's really going on? And I mean, your body can react. You're reacting physically. So it's
Mhm.
not just what's going through your mind. Your whole body is responding to this. So if you've had that, you can relate. If you haven't had it, you may have it one day. Or if not, I mean, God bless you, because it's like that's a wonderful thing. You've learned to not really let anything get to you.
If you haven't, then you might be still in a baby. You might be
Yeah,
still
you might
in.
still be a baby if you're that person who doesn't have a care in the world. Because I'm telling you, I wake up, I'm like, wait a minute, did I forget to do this? Or
Because
wait, or I type something in my phone. It's so bad. I put notes in my phone about just something. It may be about the show, it may be about something else. But I'm like, I just had this great idea. Let me just type it up so I don't forget it.
yes, and there's so many things now that I just took some notes that I want to talk in detail. But before we get to that part, I want you to share your road to this work. At what point in life did you always know you wanted to do this, or did something happen that impacted you and kind of placed you on your road to wanting to really be an advocate for mental health?
I didn't always know that I wanted to do this. I always knew I wanted to do something involving like working with people. I thought I wanted to go into law. And I remember my great aunt before she passed away reminded me that I used to talk about mortuary science. I don't know why I don't know why I was fascinated with that, but that was like, short lived. But I did think I was going to go into law. And then as I was in school and I was in undergrad, I became sort of, and a lot of people do this happens, like you start to like have your intro psych classes, like, yeah, that's not. But then I started taking more psychology classes, and I got into an abnormal psych class, and that's when you're really getting into the deep stuff, and you're just kind of analyzing yourself and the people around you, because that's when you're really getting into like sociopathic behavior. You're getting into like it's going well beyond like the day-to-day depression and anxiety. And I was really getting into it. So I had instructors, they're like, okay, you're really into this, like you it seems like you're interested in psychology. And I still at that point, this was in undergrad, I still at that point did not see myself in graduate school, in like a doctoral program, or being in school for several many years. I didn't see that, which is a good thing, because I probably would not have done it. Sometimes if you focus too much on the path to getting somewhere, you may not do it. If somebody tells you, well, you're going to be in school for about 10 plus years, and then you got to study for this big exam that's a national exam, and then you got to do this internship, you will probably run away from it. So it's good that I didn't know. And I'm saying that for the people who may be considering doing it, don't even worry about like all of that stuff down the line. It just kind of falls into place. You meet somebody like me who will help you. Um, but it was like all of that. And I saw, like, I had some great instructors. I mean, they knew what they were doing. They knew the field in and out. And it just became natural for me to keep going. So I did my undergrad, took a little bit of a break, and then went to graduate school. But I was like really into it. But I do like to say I have the best of both worlds, because I started out, once I like got a license, I was able to do psychological evaluations for people in the legal system. So that was combining like the mental health and with law. And so I still got my chance to do that. And then as I got fully licensed and really into the field and becoming an expert, I would work with attorneys. Ironically, I was working with attorneys, and which is something I did not like plan to do. I didn't market myself to do this, but it just kind of fell into my lap. I would work with attorneys, and as I developed skill, I would do psychological evaluations that were either like criminal responsibility. You hear a lot about like people being insane and getting off on the insanity defense. Is called not guilty by reason of insanity, or like incompetent to stand trial. So I started doing those evaluations. And so I don't do as much anymore. I still do some, and I get calls for them, or I supervise them. So it was really just a matter of, I realized I just love this field. And then as I got really into it, I like to let people know that if you want to do something with psychology, you may not be that person who wants to do therapy. Not every psychologist, it has the couch in their office and the person, lying out talking about their problems. There's so many different areas to go into. You may be that person who works in the corporate world that are telling people how to improve like day-to-day strategies to motivate people. You may not know this. A lot of people don't know this, but even the lighting in a place and the type of lighting that's soothing, that's all psychology based. And so you may want to do something like that. So once I realized, so I just love this field because there's so many different things to do with it. And you can never stop growing. You're never going to know anything. You're never going to know everything. Not anything, but you're never going to know everything.
Exactly. And when you were saying that, it just started letting me think about like the brain itself, which would kind of make sense because there's so much that's known and so much that's unknown. And the functionality of it is so vast in what it does. So it leads you to think that you're in that field, you would just have all these opportunities of vastness as well, because you know what areas might need impacting. Like you said, the stress from a work environment triggers something. If you're in a high demand and stressful environment, it's triggering something. How can we help your workers when they, take breaks accordingly so that their stress can be reduced? It's so many things, as you were saying, that you can do. But what you said throughout and consistently is that you love the field. That's what I want to make sure people understand is her why. Her why is that she absolutely loves the field, and that's what separates her as an expert.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, you really should love what you do. You should have some passion around it. And if
yeah,
you don't, find something else to do. Age doesn't matter. People say, oh, I'm too old. Unless you're just truly retired and
not
you don't have to
even
work
then.
anymore,
My
then
mom
that's
got her
different.
master's like in her 60s, and she's like in her 70s now. Still work because that's her passion. It's never too late, and that's why she said she did it for our family to recognize it's never too late.
It's never too late. And let me tell you, when I talk about interns that I supervise, they may be early 20s on up to 60 because there are people who decided to go back to school for a second career. So stop putting yourself in that box and saying, I'm too young or too old or too anything for this or that, because you're not. But if you keep telling yourself that, then you are.
Exactly. Exactly. Because that's part of that power of that mind right there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So, Dr. Michelle, before I ask the next question, I want to acknowledge this segment's core businesses and their events. So, we'll be right back.
Reggae superstar Max Suavo and award-winning supergroup King Mellow Man and Mellow Runnings 8 back at the Wild Hare, 2610 Halsted Street, Chicago, Illinois. Saturday, June 1st from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Advance tickets and limited reserve tables available.
It's time to hatch. Free gathering to refresh, release, restore, and renew. Hosted by Cherise Saylor, prophetic life coach. Sunday, June 2nd from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Hilton Garden Inn, 26,000 American Drive, Southfield, Michigan. Attention girl dads. Linked wants you to come beat and bond with your daughter for Father's Day. Saturday, June 8th, 2024 from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. At the Caroline Kennedy Library, 25490 George Street, Dearborn Heights, Michigan. You're the world to your daddy's girl.
Presenting yet another legendary BOSS endorsed event. This is hip hop. This is battle rap. Money Management 2 in conjunction with Money Machine Virtual League. June 15th. We are the goal.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to YouTube, search for Deals with Bob, and click the subscribe button.
Well, we're back. And what I am excited to ask, some things that you said in the conversation. I wrote in my notes, your mind triggers your body responses, And I put that down there because I want you to elaborate. One thing that you've said before on a segment, I want you to reiterate. If your mind isn't functioning, everything else is impacted. So there really shouldn't be a stigma, guys.
Exactly. Exactly. If we can accept when our bodies are not functioning properly, or if you can wear a cast out in public, then you can wear your mental health problems out in public. You can talk about them. So there's no difference. We can't separate the mind and body. Yeah, is it easier to hide one over the other? Most of the time, yes. But have you ever been like feeling just totally relaxed and at ease, and then all of a sudden you're feeling anxious and you don't know why? Like nothing has happened, nothing is like your environment is still the same, and within a matter of minutes you're suddenly feeling anxious. You're no longer, you were maybe sleepy, but now you're no longer sleepy. You can no longer sit calmly. Now you're pacing the floor. So that right there is a sign that your body is saying there's a threat, when there's no real threat, but your body's telling you that like something's going on. But what's really going on is something in your mind. Your mind is telling you that there's something to worry about, there's something to feel anxious about. And the reason why you may you may start pacing, or you may start feeling like you need to just move, it's because usually when there's a threat, we don't sit, right? We move.
Right.
And so you may not always realize why you're doing it, but that's the reason you start doing that, because you're really sensing that, hey, there's a bear in here. Let me try to get away from it.
Right.
And when there's really not. And that's what happens. And so one affects the other. And then, but again, that's why it's so important to focus on, like, we have to think about our thinking. Like, why am I now feeling overwhelmed? Sometimes it comes from overthinking. Sometimes it comes from something you saw on TV. You could have just consumed something that causes it. But I think the more awareness we have, the more we're able to combat the problems that come with it. But when you don't know why, you may even go to urgent care because you're like, suddenly I'm feeling, how often people go to urgent care thinking that they're having a heart attack, but they're having anxiety. And it may not even be a panic attack, but it may just be extreme anxiety that's causing your body to react, or something is just happening. And a lot of people, and what I learned about heartburn from one of my psychiatrist friends is that oftentimes heartburn can accompany anxiety, and that wasn't something that I've always known. And so when you think about it, all of that's connected, right? You think about your heart, you think about your brain and what's going on. So if you start having, like, fast pulse, rapid heartbeat, and you've had something, so it can, if you're prone to like acid reflux or heartburn, it can be triggered by that. So it's like we can try to separate it. We may take one medication to treat the heartburn and one medication to treat the anxiety, but they're actually all connected. And when we learn to control, it's more about, if you learn to control your mind, you may learn to control those other things that are happening.
Yes.
The mind is so powerful. We
It's so
don't
powerful.
give it enough credit. We want to shove it to the back.
I'm filling with stupid stuff.
Right.
But what I was going to share with you is exactly what you were saying, because it was saying the same thing to me. It's really by choice is what I'm hearing. And I know we don't want to accept it sometimes, but it really is, because that's how powerful our mind is. And our mind does not have, this is what's beautiful, the ability to differentiate between whether it's real reality and or not. And what I mean by that is let's say you have this overdue bill. If you focus on, I don't have a way to pay it, oh my God, this bill is due, then it will be magnified in you, and you will feel the results of that. The anxiety, the worry, the nervousness, and you can't even eat because your stomach is in knots and stuff, But if you have that same bill and you decide to be like, it's going to be taken care of, just like it's been taken care of before. I don't need to worry about this. It's going to be paid. Life is great. It's good. I got my health. We got food in the refrigerator. I mean, literally, if you just shift all of your thoughts to positive things, you will not react the same way to it. That is just
beautiful.
That's true, though. I know people be thinking like that's not true. It's true.
Well, and that's because we like to. It's almost like we need to. And I learned this too from studying law of attraction. It's almost like we do need to vent. It's almost like we have this need to vent and focus on the bad for a minute. So when Sonia's coming along and saying, well, if you just focus on the positive, we're like, we don't want to hear that. No, but listen to what happened.
The key, though, you said, yes, I'm not saying you never acknowledge it, but you said for a minute.
Yes.
What happens is that minute turns into days and then into weeks. And it's almost the same with loss.
Yes.
I know loss has to run its toll, but sometimes I think people kind of maybe get comfortable in the feelings of the loss and they kind of like it there a little bit versus to say, okay, it's time for me to celebrate the life that I had and focus on the impact. Remember all of the beautiful things they did, and that would give you a different feeling than they're not here and my life is voided, and it just does. It just does. The mind is so powerful that whatever you feed it, you're going to respond accordingly.
And you're right. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because there are certain personality types that they almost are more comfortable in that place of dwelling in like the negative of what's not good. And when I say personality types, I'm not talking about personality disorders. I'm talking about just like general, like your makeup. It's almost like something happens and you tend to be more comfortable in that negative space than maybe somebody else, because it's almost like you have this expectation of bad things happening. So when bad things happen, it's like, yeah, I'm comfortable here. I like it here almost. Ironically, because most of the time, we don't like bad things. So you expect that more than the good things. And so you may dwell there more. And when somebody's like, okay, do we have to keep talking about this? You're like, well, yeah, did you see what happened? And this is it. And so like Sonia said, you stay there not for a day or two, but maybe several years you stay there, and you try to like pull other people in with you, or you're calling people naive because they're not seeing it from your perspective, or you think they don't really get reality. But some people have really learned that they have to move away from that space.
Right. Right. Now there's another thing that you brought up. And I don't remember the content. It was in the previous segment, but I wrote in my notes, young people with anxiety. And I think I wrote that just to touch on very lightly, in the time in which you have been working in your field, have you noticed an increase or a decrease, when I say young people, 18 and younger, where there have battling more with mental health related things, not necessarily, genetic type of mental concerns, but more external environmental influence?
Definitely increase. And it seems to be constantly increasing. I wish I knew, and I can't attribute it to one specific thing. I don't want to blame it all on social media, but I think that too plays a role in the anxiety, because they don't get a break from stress. I always say that when we were younger, we weren't, if a conflict happened at school or somewhere, we could leave it. Now you don't get a break because it carries over. You get home and you're on social media and you're still dealing with that same conflict. So that's one aspect of it. And then pressure and just worrying. There's more worrying. And I mean, and I'm glad you said, under 18, because there's so much worrying, even starting at like the little ones, like 7, or maybe even a little bit younger. But that I've had some adults tell me that they realized that they had high anxiety starting at around 7 or 8.
Wow.
And you don't think about, so just pay attention to your kids. If you're thinking, oh, they don't care, life is happy, and it doesn't matter how many things you're buying them or how great you think they have it, there's still a lot of worrying. So it has definitely increased. And the anxiety seems to be at like the height, that is like highest point in like
Wow.
many many years, is what we're noticing. More, a lot of people are sending their kids to therapy because of anxiety. I mean, they're getting blamed for being like oppositional. They're getting,
Mhm.
all these other terms that are being placed on them, but sometimes it's anxiety. And everybody's getting ADHD diagnosis. Sometimes it's anxiety. So we have to be careful about our diagnoses. If you take your child to therapy, it's okay to question the diagnosis that they receive, but not everything's going to be ADHD.
Right. And it's not.
Yeah. And Sonia, you can speak a lot to autism because you
Yes.
know a lot about it. And unfortunately, people are being kids are being, even adults now are being misdiagnosed with autism. And
Yes.
so we just have to, if so, just, question, just question everything and pay attention. But yes, that there is definitely an increase. So we just have to pay attention to our kids and understand that there may be a reason for why they're acting out.
Yes, and I
And
know,
don't just punish it. Don't just punish,
don't just punish it. But I know I'm like, neighborhoods are so quiet now because ain't kids out playing.
They're on the internet.
Where's all the
or
kids
games
at?
or games.
And then to me, to a certain extent, you talk about the laws of attraction. And don't get me wrong, I realize we have a lot of work to do in our communities to make it feel safe and less threatening. However, if you are a parent and you are projecting your fears about your child playing outside, then now they like, oh God, I can't go outside and play. It's something, gonna get me out there. So we have to be really careful too of that, that thin line, because long as you was home before the street lights came out,
Right.
that's the generation I grew up in. We were out there, playing green light, red light, and hopscotch and jump
Yes.
rope, and we were athletic. We were, running and racing, and hey, scrapes and bruises was okay. Getting some dirt on you, drinking out the water hose. I mean, that's probably why I have such good immunities. I'm just saying. I wish we really maybe
the kids don't even know what that is. When you say red light, green light, they don't know what that is.
But that blows off steam. And that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't have focus onto all of the stresses of just growing up, schoolwork and things you can't get, and friends who was friends today and not tomorrow, but that was your outlet. You had fun again. It didn't last long because you played. And I think that's part of one of the reasons. I agree with the social media, but if you turn the social media off and go out and play,
yeah, use up some of that energy, because you really, as we talk about the mind-body connection, you really do. I mean, we are not made to be sedentary all the time. We do need our breaks, we need our rest, we need our downtime, but we're not made to be sedentary 24/7. And so it all plays a role. If you move around more, you're going to feel better mentally and physically. And that goes for kids and adults.
Exactly. We're going to take our final break before we go into our last segment. And the question that's going to be posed when we return is, what keeps you encouraged? We'll be right back.
Juneteenth 2024 Book Fair, presented by Detroit Book City. Saturday, June 22nd, 2024, from 12 noon to 5 p.m. at the historic People's Community Church, 8601 Woodward Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. Free admission, RSVP on Eventbrite.
SOL Garden Creations and Aqua Creations, STEM Bioengineering Summer Camp. June 24th through August 2nd. Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. through 5 p.m. Ernest T. Ford Recreational Center. Free to the public, seats are limited. Register today. For more information, contact Jacqueline Lindsay at 248-795-5409. Bassman Productions presents a funk rhythm and soul concert featuring Full Circle and special guests. Saturday, June 29th, 2024, from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Secondra's Place, 12325 Hamilton Avenue, Highland Park, Michigan. Admission $25. Come get P-funked.
BUF of Michigan and Ford Philanthropy Youth Careers Exploratory Academy exciting summer program. July 22nd through July 26th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Fisher Magnet Upper School East, 15491 Madeline Street, door number 5, Detroit, Michigan. Registration deadline is June 20th. For more information, contact Dr. Linda McLean at 313-894-2200.
Let us support you in your event by adding it to our Stay Connected segments and encouraging community support. Visit www.dealswithbob.com or call us today.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to YouTube, search for Deals with Bob, and click the subscribe button.
And we're back. So as we go into this final segment, again, the question was posed, what keeps you encouraged?
I take my downtime. There was a time when I would do so much and just do and do and do and let myself get overwhelmed. Now I know when I'm feeling, not just an expert in psychology, but an expert in me and knowing when I need a break. And so I take more of that now. And that really does keep me encouraged because, and I'm going to say hope, because when I am having that time where I'm feeling myself feeling unmotivated or just that lack of encouragement, I know I can say this too shall pass because this has happened before, and so I'll get back there. And I take a little bit of downtime, whether it's a vacation or just downtime at home, a day off, not doing anything at all. And that really does keep me encouraged.
I love it. Yes, we all need to take those breaks and just take time to oneself. And I do feel that in America, um, we just get that you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. If you're not going, you're not being productive. You got to go, you got to go, and we don't highlight and emphasize and celebrate enough, people to say take the time, take the downtime. I felt like for me, I was constantly going. And when I did have a moment to do nothing, I didn't know how. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, how do you relax? Like, and that's
Right.
just crazy. Like, you don't know how to relax, how to be still, how to do nothing, how to shut your mind off. And it's
Hmm.
really, it's imperative. I'm glad
It
you
is.
mentioned that. It is imperative that you do so.
And I still don't know how. So I'm the type of person, like if I'm going to watch TV, I don't watch it until evening. So I don't usually take like just random days off. So if I do, I'm like, well, what am I going to do today? Because if I'm not working, if I don't do any work, so I'll still end up doing some work unless I know I need that time to do nothing. So yeah, it's still, like I said at the beginning, a work in progress. But I'm like, what I'm going to do is I can't spend the whole day watching TV.
Yes, you can. I literally had this conversation with Chris. I said, I do not care to go anywhere. What I want is to snuggle in bed all day long and just watch movies and eat and and just be cuddled. I said
And
that
that
would
sounds like a
be
beautiful day.
doesn't it? And from the time in which I have said that statement, it still hasn't happened yet.
See, see,
So
because
yes,
you're out at speaking engagements and out at this and that, and and then if you do take that day, you're preparing for an engagement.
right. So it's just, but I have to be intentional.
Hmm.
That's what's huge, is to be intentional. So before we go, because we're at the top of the hour, I have my standard question to ask. But if there's any final remarks, I want you to prepare to share them. But we need to know what book is currently on your nightstand or that you have recently read or would highly recommend reading. How can people connect to you again? And any final remarks?
Yeah, so the book, I started reading this book on my way to, was it Las Vegas? No, Chicago recently. Um, it's a mystery novel. Vladimir is the name of it, I believe, Vladimir. But I try to step away from like some of the other, the more serious stuff. And but yeah, Vladimir, I love mystery novels, so it's really really good. It's a book that I bought when I was in Paris. We went into this bookstore, and I wasn't planning to buy books, but I went straight to like the mystery section. And so yes, I'm reading that. And how to find me, you can Google Michelle Lino, Dr. Michelle Lino. I'm Michelle with one L, Michele, last name Leno. I'm on social media at Mind Matters with Dr. Michelle, or just under my name. And final words, just really believe in yourself. If you have something that you want to do, don't let the mind chatter stop you. And even if it does stop you for a minute, go back to it. Just return to it. Let it stop you. If it stops you for a minute, go back to it the next day. But believe in yourself more than others believe in you. Sometimes we focus more on others believing in us, and then we're disappointed when they don't, and we blame them for failures. But really, we stop ourselves. So
Mhm.
just practice, even if you have to meditate on that. Believe in yourself and learn to know when something is for you and not need other people to tell you when it's not for you.
Yes, I love
Mhm.
it. I love it. Thank you for that. And so, in final remarks, I want to give thanks to our additional core businesses that sponsored tonight's show. We have Sonia and Weaver Coaching, Tranquility Christian Counseling, Linked, and Bright Tech Communications. And if you have not already done so, we will ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This gives us an opportunity to get a further reach to everyone, and they get to hear these phenomenal conversations. So, yes, all you need to do is do a search on YouTube, look for Deals with Bob, and click that subscribe button. While you're there, I'll ask that you hit the notification bell so you'll know every single time we go live. And make sure you share this with your family and friends and encourage them to do the same. I want to say thank you to everyone who joined and who watched live and those who are watching the replay. I am Sonia M. Weaver. And as always, I encourage you to spend with purpose because your dollar does matter, and deal with Bob. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you soon.